Sometime later, Izumo wakes up and immediately calls out to Andy. He is right there next to her, and he reveals that he ended up reading all 101 volumes of the manga she likes. Izumo has no words for him at first, but then demands to know why he did something so dangerous. He and Shen made the deal to remove the card from his head, and they didn't tell her anything. If the other members of the round table didn't show up, then Andy wouldn't be around anymore, and she would be all alone again. Andy apologizes, but she is shocked when he touches her head. Andy doesn't care and explains that when he was trapped in the darkness, all he could hear was her voice. It made him happy, so he thanked her. What's most surprising to her is that it's the first time he has actually called her by her name. But Andy just says that it's almost time for their meeting. Izumo wants them to say it again, but he just tells her to hurry up and get ready. Izumo cries, but it's out of happiness, since Andy is back to normal. Izumo wonders who her new little friend is, and Andy explains that the circular robot dropped it off when they came to see her. All the little orphans came to see her too, and they made her a little drawing. The Union's orphanage will take care of the parentless children until they turn 18, and Andy points out that those kids have a strong will to survive. Izumo hopes that their memories of their teacher won't turn into bad memories, and Andy doubts that they will. He married that teacher, and he knows that she felt so strongly about all of them. He is sure that powerful emotions reach their destination without spoiling, just like Izumo's did. In typical Andy fashion, he credits himself for his inspirational words and proclaims that it's not too bad for a guy who has been alive for 200 years. He is certain that it will make him more likable, but his speech is interrupted by the stroke of Unluck from touching Izumo's head. Top welcomes the two lovebirds to the meeting, and Izumo apologizes for being late. He points out that her boyfriend is burning, but Izumo is quick to point out that there aren't lovebirds. Everyone is pretty light-hearted, but Daruku told them to sit down. Andy is now ranked 9th, and he explains that it's because of the clothing incident. Everyone is seated, so Daruku has Apocalypse announce the quest results. The book opens up and prepares to reveal the results of the 6 quests given to them. Elsewhere we can hear that someone is tied up to a chair and is in really bad shape, but we cannot see this person. The guy watching him reveals that the tied-up guy is the negator, Unseen. The guy is fascinated by Unseen since he is a self-targeting compulsory activation type. When Unseen shuts his eyes, his body and anything he recognizes as his property become invisible. The strange thing is that the blood coming from his stomach is still visible.
面白いな。目を閉じると腹から出てる血はお前のだぞ。逃げられると困るからうちに入るなら能力を解いてやる。安心。お前は俺のだ。
Tristan explains that he doesn't want Unseen to run off on him, so he cuts open his stomach and puts a homing device inside his body. Tristan promises that if Unseen joins his group, then he will deactivate his ability. If not, then Unseen's wound will not heal until Tristan dies. Tristan claims Unseen as his property and refuses to give him to the other group. Back at the round table, Izumo was shocked to learn that she had been unconscious for days. Andy isn't shocked at all since, a shut-in like Izumo, she isn't used to moving around so much. Apocalypse then announces their results. The first quest was the capture of Yuma Burn. The participants were Daruku, Billy, Tatiana, Haruka, Phil, and Top. They were successful and the reward is the addition of an 11th seat, so one more negator may now be added to the round table. They were also successful in the second quest, the capture of Yumerit. Apocalypse pukes out a weird-looking globe and reminds them that the reward for the second quest is the location of Negator Unburned. A point appears on the map, and the exact location of Unburned will be shown for the next 7 days. Unburned will not know that their location has been revealed. Apocalypse states that they can catch them if they need them, but it's unlikely since they already captured Burn. They also completed the quest that required the neutralization of Yuma language. The reward for this is, shockingly, the unification of all the world's languages. We then see how great an effect these rewards can have on the entire world. As all languages are unified into English, all the memories and cultures of all non-negotiators are altered, so things can keep going smoothly. Shen contacts Mui, and she answers while getting a pump. He wonders if she is wearing her necktie, but she isn't as she's busy working on her games. Shen speaks to her using their normal language without his tie on, but that language no longer exists, and Moe can't understand, confirming the unification of all languages. Next is the successful capture of the Yuma past, and the reward is the location of the Artifact Rebellion. Quest 5 was the capture of Yuma's spoil, which we see as a success. As he is imprisoned, another pin is put on the planet, and it's for the location of Yuma on repair. Izumo gets super hyped about this one, since Unrepair might be able to give Andy the real death he desperately wants. However, she is surprised when he doesn't share her enthusiasm. Just when it seems like they could have completed all the quests, they didn't. The quest to capture the Negator Unseen was failed. They expected this, since anyone that was sent to get information about Unseen ended up dying. Their bound bodies ended up in a deserted area, and all of them bled to death. Because of this, Andy assumes that Unseen was taken by Unrepair. Since all quests were not completed, they will now receive a penalty. This penalty is the addition of Yuma Galaxy. So the crazy book begins to puke something out. Everyone is shocked by the enormous size of the creature appearing before them, but the more mature members seem bored. Once the monster stops growing, Apocalypse releases it into the air, and Andy wonders if it's trying to get to the surface. Daruku calls upon Yuma move, and Izumo remembers that he was the one that brought her and Andy there. Daruku's commands move to take them to the surface, so the ground breaks. Andy takes hold of Izumo, and the two fall together. Apocalypse explains that Yuma Galaxy has been added, a new rule that the world will now believe has always existed. The psychotic book laughs like a demon and wonders if the Negators will be able to overcome this penalty. The Union arrives on the surface, which Andy assumes is Australia, and Izumo of Mesa sees the biggest rock in the world. Yuma Move has done his job transporting them and now expects to see quite the show. Daruku agrees with him and promises to give him a front row seat to what she calls justice. Move leaves, and Izumo states that she thought this so-called penalty would be a lot scarier. Daruku is quick to tell her just how wrong she is. They are dealing with a Yuma that was added by the Apocalypse, and they always possess rules that lead to humanity's ruin. There is no exception, and they prepare as the alteration is about to begin. Just then, the thing that came out of Apocalypse's mouth burst into space. Some kind of core forms in a galaxy appears. Stars fill the sky, and Top thinks it looks pretty amazing. Daruku wants confirmation about some type of patch, and Nico is already on it. The new changes that are now common knowledge to everyone in existence are not common knowledge to the Negators because their memories were not changed. Nico speaks to his team of researchers, who are not Negators, and instructs them to give him their knowledge. It all pours into Nico's brain, and he reveals that this galaxy is a cluster of celestial bodies like Earth. This penalty spawned a slew of these Earth-like bodies, along with systems involving them, such as months and days of the week. It also introduced the concept of extraterrestrial life forms called aliens, and at this very moment, those aliens are invading them. Just then, a giant spaceship appears before them. They are enemies that were born moments ago from the alteration of a world that always had a galaxy. That's not what they perceive, however, since to them they always existed. Born on a planet with several 100 million years of history, these aliens trained themselves to become soldiers. Then they were given ships to invade other planets. Their own planet is on a path to ruin, so they are looking for a new place to call home. A giant alien then reveals itself and introduces his race of aliens as something called Axe.
我々はアクス。ここを新たな母性とするため、侵略に抵抗しなければお前たちを労働抵抗するなら。
He very bluntly explains that they are invading their planet to make it their home. Daruku walks right up to this giant dude and introduces herself as the planet's representative. This alien is very generous and tells her that they plan to use her kind as slaves as long as they don't resist. If they do resist, however, they will all be eliminated. Daruku fears no one, so she rejects both options and tells them to leave. This crazy alien demonstrates his immense power with a huge attack and reveals that the Act has done its research. The human planet is horribly underdeveloped, and they have yet to make any advancements into space. Humanity has no chance of winning against them in battle, so it will just be genocide. Daruku wonders if that is really his vision of justice, and he states that it is. This being the case, Daruku removes her helmet and states that she will simply have to negate that justice. This is when we learn that her negating ability is called Unjustice. Of course, the alien has no clue what that is, but he is shocked when his ships begin exploding. Things get even more unbelievable as he can only watch as his ships are firing at each other. This terrifyingly powerful alien has no clue what happened and falls to his knees in defeat.
なら私はその正義を否定しよう。
Daruku calls out to Andy and Izumo and tells them to watch closely, as this is what a penalty entails. They manage to avoid the situation this time with her ability, but depending on the member involved, it could have just as easily been game over. This was the 99 penalty added, and they can't afford it anymore. Andy wonders why. Daruku explains that they uncovered the stone tablet at the same time as the apocalypse. That tablet has 101 slots. Each time they receive a penalty, one slot gets filled. There is only one open slot left until it reaches 100. Beyond that lies the final penalty, the one called Ragnarok. It's a word that denotes the end. And in order to protect their planet, they must prevent it at all costs. The huge problem they have now is that Apocalypse won't open unless they have all the seats filled at the round table. They have 11 seats now after passing the burn quest, so they are down one person. If they don't fill that seat, they will receive a penalty in 3 months before they can take up any more quests. This means that their absolute most important priority right now is to secure an 11th member. The alien wonders who these crazy people are, and Daruku can't believe he is still there. Her ability should have made him take his own life, but it's clear now that his vision was all talk. This works out just fine, as she wants him to spread a message throughout all of space, which is to keep their hands off planet Earth. The alien is terrified until he reports out of there. We learned that this was mankind's first interaction with aliens, but it would also be the last, as all contact would cease thereafter. Daruku reminds her team that they have learned the whereabouts of Unburn and Unrepair because of the rewards. Andy is certain that Daruku wants to go after Unrepair first and volunteers to go. If Unrepair's ability is true to its name, and he is certain that one attack will prove fatal, Daruku accepts his decision and instructs Tatiana to go with him as backup. Izumo is assigned to the mission as well, and Andy is glad that he will be able to pay everyone back for helping him out when he was trapped in Victor. Sometime later, our heroes arrive in Brazil, where they will search for Unrepair. Izumo panics like a weirdo inside a mall as she is surrounded by celebrities. Andy explains that he is ready, and the nervous Izumo scolds him for leaving her alone for so long. She doesn't fit in there at all, and she nearly died of embarrassment. Her anger turns to shock as our boy Andy shows off a type of suit he hasn't worn in a while. Izumo thinks he looks like a celebrity, and Andy just wants to know if she likes what she sees. Izumo gets nervous, and Andy gets a little too close for comfort. We then get a look back to just a few hours ago as our heroes traveled on Union's private jet. They discuss a black market auction, an auction that deals with negators, humor, and artifacts that the organization hasn't been able to manage. This operation was taken down at some point, but it looks like they're back in business. The guys behind it are mafia members from all over the world. They always hold it in random locations, so tracking the auction down is no easy task. Daruku somehow managed to find it, and the next auction will be held tomorrow at midnight. It will be on a fancy yacht docked at the port of Rio de Janeiro. Unrepair will likely be there, but they don't know if you will be buying or selling. The plan is for them to infiltrate the ship as guests using some passes that Nico made them. Only a select few celebrities are allowed aboard, so they have to disguise themselves. Back to the present, Izumo gets really uncomfortable when trying on far too revealing clothing. She is used to covering herself up, and she blames Andy for picking out skimpy outfits for her to try. Andy has a legitimate reason, as he explains that they need a lot of surface area to make sure big strokes of unluck occur. Izumo thinks he's just being selfish, as that could cause innocent people to get injured. Andy confidently explains that the night will end with her being his girl, and he's not letting anyone else lay their hands on her. Andy explains that the people on the ship are people with money, so they aren't really innocent bystanders. Andy hands her some more outfits to try, but she quickly notices that he once again snuck in some skimpy stuff. Another look back shows Izumo asking Daruku why she chose to assign her to the mission. Andy and Tatiana are both really strong, but Izumo fears that she will just drag them down. Daruku is explaining that she is simply acting in accordance with her own vision of justice. Her justice is to protect their planet and the innocent people who inhabit it. It's the same reason she ordered Shen and Void to eliminate Andy and Izumo a while back. They were just too dangerous. However, the recent fight against Victor has made her realize something. If they can somehow manage to control Izumo's unlike ability, then it might just be powerful enough to kill God. Izumo clearly isn't ready now, and Ragnarok is drawing near as well. Daruku then shocks Izumo with her next request. She wants Izumo to continue to work closely with Andy and fall in love with him. Back to the present, Izumo gets tired of trying on dresses. Andy likes the last one and helps her fix her posture. Andy thinks it's a 10 out of 10, so they go with it. At a hotel, Izumo gets really nervous around all the people, so Andy suggests that they go for a walk. On this little walk, our boy Andy boldly brings up the unluck that they brought when they were fighting Victor. It was when they kissed, so Andy wants to get some of that sweet unluck for himself. Izumo takes off running, but Andy just wants a meteor shower of his own. Andy is jealous because he was the one who kissed her, but Victor was the one who got the stroke of unluck. Izumo declares that she only gives out big strokes of unluck out of necessity, so she plans to use a small one to get him off her back. Andy tries to kiss her instead, but Izumo refuses. She takes off her gloves and tells her clothing to be exposed. Andy's chest. Clothing does just that. Izumo touches skin to skin with Andy. Clothing just now realizes that the unluck is going to hurt him too. But it's too late. As an 18-wheeler truck comes barreling in to hit Andy, Izumo apologizes to Clothing but promises to give him his favorite food later, a ball of yarn. Andy then becomes shark food, so Izumo realizes that it was a combo-style stroke of unluck, low-potency strokes of singular unluck occurring in a chain reaction. Things get a bit serious as Annie explains that he doesn't really know who Victor is. He doesn't even know himself, for that matter. Victor mentions something about being the original, so Andy thinks that might be true, especially since he doesn't have any memories of his childhood. Andy warns Izumo that Victor could appear again one day and prepares to ask her for a favor. Izumo interrupts him and simply states that if that happens, then she will use her unluck to save Andy as many times as he needs. They prepare to go get ready for the auction, but Izumo realizes that they just touched again. This stroke of unluck causes Tatiana to crash down on our boy, and she goes over the plan. The two of them will be going undercover while Tatiana infiltrates from somewhere else. They will search for unrepair from the inside, and she will cover the outside. Tatiana gives Izumo a bow for her dress that will replace the tie that Union members wear. Tatiana then embarrasses Izumo when she reminds them that they're going to be disguised as a married couple, and she tells them to do their best. That night, the two arrive at the ship, and Andy tells his darling wife to get ready. After they board the ship, it sets off, and Andy reminds Izumo to stay focused. They're about to enter society's underbelly, so he doesn't want her to think about righting the wrongs they will surely see around them. Izumo overhears some rich dude talking about something called cryptids. Andy explains that they are likely talking about Yuma. Izumo is horrified when the rich dude talks about cooking the Yuma, and Andy reminds her to stop listening to the grotesque conversation. They overhear some other conversation about a rumor that says the negator will be the main item for this auction. However, negators are supposedly easier to find now more than ever. Andy blames that on the fact that all languages have been unified thanks to the quest. Language being unified is only the case for normal people, not negators. He reminds Izumo that she can only understand Shen because of the necktie they wear. Every normal person in the world speaks English now, so the negators who don't speak English stick out like sore thumbs. Negators being easier to find isn't a terrible thing, since it means they will be easier to find for the Union as well. Izumo then wonders if it's better for negators to join the Union or to be auctioned off. Andy thinks it's the same either way, since they will either die in the quest or become some rich person's plaything. Izumo wonders about the negator being auctioned off and thinks about how she might be able to relate to them, not knowing the logic behind their abilities and not knowing what they should or shouldn't do. Andy explains that he used to think that negators had only 3 paths to taking life. They could accept their abilities and lead their lives. They could fall into despair and choose death, or they could double down and embrace a life of crime. He realizes now, however, that there is a 4th option, and that's killing the source god. After meeting the others, he realized that they don't have to accept, give up, or double down on anything they can fight. Elsewhere on the ship, we see that the unrepaired are being told that a certain area is off limits. He tries to convince the guards to let him through with his girlfriend, but only ends up getting a gun to his face instead. The mafia guard explains that it will be his last warning, but Unrepair asks the girl named Latla if he will die. Latla can apparently see what will happen and explains that Unrepair will get shot in the head. Unrepair decides that that won't be happening and travels at an insane speed. The mafia guys take severe damage, and they can't understand how this guy managed to cut them so accurately in such a short amount of time.
俺は死ぬか？
ええ。
じゃあ死なないな。
喉を切られた。一瞬で頸動脈をやられた。
They can't even move their hands and realize that they were cut with surgical precision. Unrepair whistles for his pet named Kane to come to him, and we shockingly find that Kane is a huge monster. Kane tosses two blobs onto the ship, and Unrepair tells Latla that she should have come aboard the same way. She gets really upset, as she doesn't want to get covered in bile. Unrepair tells Latla that he won't need his suit jacket anymore because they're going to be running wild soon. The big guy named RIP wonders if what they were looking for is really on the ship, and Unrepair confirms that there is one. RIP has a good laugh since Latla's fortune-telling was wrong, but she says that it was just this one time. Unrepair tries to welcome the little guy named Feng, but Feng only speaks Chinese. Unrepair speaks Chinese to thank him for coming, but Feng retorts that it's not necessary. Latla tosses the suit off the ship, but we see that Tatiana overhears everything. She then informs the others. She states that there were 4 of them, and at least 2 of them are negators. They seem to be after the negator is put up for auction. Daruku hears this as well and determines that they are negator hunters. This group has come up quite a bit as of late, and they're likely the ones that took the negator unseen. This group shares common ground with the Union, as they both specialize in collecting negators by force. There is a big difference between them. The Union seeks to kill God in order to be freed of the rules. The Hunters, on the other hand, seek revenge against the world. If the negators they collect prove worthless, then they dispose of them. Daruko realized that they actually share that last part in common. Izumo says that she rejects that idea. The reason they tried to take her life was to protect others. Izumo then gets herself prepared and takes off her shoes. She acknowledges that the powers of a negator can be painful and sad to deal with. However, that doesn't make it okay to take it out on the world. Andy gets hyped up by his fake wife's speech, and the two prepare for battle. Izumo gets rid of her wig and grabs onto Andy to charge up her unluck to him. They make their way past some guards, and Andy instructs Tatiana to bring him his unbreakable sword. One of the guards sends out an alert that intruders might be heading for the items on auction, so they open fire on our heroes. Tatiana arrives just in time with Andy's sword, and he shockingly uses it to take off his own head. Izumo reminds everyone that negators aren't just objects to be auctioned off and tosses Andy's head, which is now loaded with Unluck. The stroke of Unluck causes a massive explosion, and our heroes prepare to retrieve the negator that is going to be auctioned. They make their way down several stairs, as that is where the cargo hold is. Andy points out that the negator hunters are definitely headed there as well, so they have to hurry. They might have to fight them, so he tells Izumo to be ready. A look back to just a moment ago, we see that Izumo's stroke of Unluck came in the form of exploding dynamite. We see that the negator was auctioned off as a kid, and he used this opportunity to try and escape. A guard tries to stop him, but this kid uses his strange ability to completely stop the guard from moving. The kid then tries to run, but the guard starts to move again, so the kid has to stop and use his ability again. The guard freezes again, but the kid isn't quite in a predicament. If the kid moves, then he can't stop the guard, but if he stops the guard, then he can't run away. This kid always knew he had a power, but he always kept it a secret, and he has no idea how to use it in such a high-stress situation. A look back to before he was captured, we learned that this kid's name is Chikara. Being a negator but not knowing about the language merging, Chikara couldn't understand why everyone suddenly started speaking English. Even everything on television changed to English, so Chikara accused everyone of playing a prank on him. His close friend had no clue what he was talking about and wondered why Chikara was talking. In a weird way, this was the exact moment he was tased into unconsciousness and captured. The next thing Chikara knew, he was caged up, and now he has this Yakuza-looking guy pointing a gun at him. On top of that, he is surrounded by terrifying creatures, and he can't get his legs to stop shaking from fear. Chikara's power stops working for some reason, and the guard is able to move again. Chikara is far too valuable to let get away, so the guard decides that he will have to shoot him in the leg to make him stay still. Unfortunately for this guy, the hunters arrive to incapacitate him and, unrepaired, realize that Chikara is an external targeting compulsory type. As long as he doesn't move, Chikara negates the movement of a target in his field of vision. Unrepair is very intrigued, as Chikara's power is the restraint type he has been hoping to find. He values this kid a lot now and refuses to ever let the Union get their hands on him. Unfortunately, Chikara speaks Japanese, but they don't speak it. They can't communicate, which upsets Unrepair since he wanted to learn more about his power. Chikara is a genius, and he says that he will take care of it. He takes out his Gatling gun and tells Chikara that he's going to shoot him, so he better use his ability if he doesn't want to die. Latla wonders if this is a bad way to recruit people, but Unrepair allows it. If Chikara can't intentionally use his power, then he is useless to them anyway. On top of that, if Chikara dies, then the ability will just transfer over to a different person. Chikara panics as he just now realizes that these people aren't actually there to save him, and he wonders if he should just use his power to stop the giant guy. Creed starts counting down from 5, but Chikara can't stop shaking. Chikara hates having this power since if he didn't have it, he would still be with his family. Creed's countdown reaches 0, but Chikara decides against using his power and apologizes to his mom and dad as he prepares to die. Creed unloads a ton of bullets into the kid, and they all determine that he must be dead.
俺に任せろ。
100% 死んだ。
However, they are all shocked when they realize that Andy has blocked all the shots with his body. Izumo arrives as well, and she gives Chikara the tie that Union members wear that allows them to comprehend any language. Andy tells Tatiana where they are, and Hazard comes to them immediately. Andy notices that the big guy is using a Gatling gun, but there are no ammo clips in sight, and he wonders how he can even fire the thing. The covered-up guy is clearly a martial artist, and Andy can tell that he is really strong. The girl is a support type with limited equipment, so she might have some kind of counter ability. Before Andy can even analyze the eye patch guy, his neck is getting sliced by him. Unrepair can tell that his new opponent is somehow able to repair himself, and he wonders what kind of negator Andy is. He ultimately decides that it doesn't matter, as he reveals that the wound he gave Andy won't repair itself until he dies. Andy tries to cut off his own head so it can heal, but Unrepair reveals that it won't work. This is because Unrepair negates any and all healing techniques applied to the wounds he inflicts. Unrepair thinks it's game over, but Andy calls Izumo's attention to something, and she seems to understand. Unrepair states that they were the ones that found Chikara first, so they should hand him over. They plan to end the kid's life, since they want to transfer his ability over to someone who is not a coward like him. Unrepair also realized that the Union was responsible for merging languages, and he thanked them for making it easier to hunt negators. Andy has had enough of this guy and charges at him. Andy thanks him for making it crystal clear that he won't be the next Union member, and Izumo shockingly uses Andy's sword to chop his head off. Andy uses his rocket head to knock Unrepair back, and Unrepair wonders who these two people are. Just then, Tatiana finally arrives and tells her teammates that she will handle both Creed and RIP. That leaves the other two with Andy and Izumo, so Andy instantly jams his sword into his first. Unrepair, I can't believe how insane Andy looks, as what he's doing seems really painful. Andy tries to attack this guy, but is shocked at how he's able to dodge his attacks. Unrepair's counters slice off his hands, and Chikara can't believe all the crazy stuff that is happening. Andy prepares to chop off his arms to heal his hands, but Unrepair once again reminds him that all healing techniques will not work. Andy does it anyway and shocks everyone when he's able to do it anyway. Andy instantly launches his forearms at Unrepair, but is stunned when they are forced to change direction. He assumes that it had to have been the girl's ability, and Unrepair explains that he finds Andy very amusing as he was able to hit him. Unrepair wants Andy to join their team and explains that they are a lot more fun. While Latla fixes her nose, Unrepair realizes why Andy's technique worked. Andy acted like he was using a healing technique, but it was actually an offensive attack. He chopped off his arms to use his arm rocket attack, so Unrepair's rule didn't apply. Unrepair really likes Andy's style, but Andy refuses to join them. Andy was really interested in Unrepair at first, but he realized that his ability wouldn't be enough to kill him and had completely lost interest. It's a shame, but Unrepair turns to Izumo and wonders if she would like to join them instead. He liked how she was crazy enough to chop off Andy's head and pointed out that Chikara's too much of a wimp to do anything like that. Chikara is so terrified that his constant shaking doesn't even allow him to fulfill the requirement of remaining still to use his ability. The ability Chikara has is amazing, but Unrepair thinks that the person it's attached to is a dud. For this reason, they want to end Chikara's life. Their group's goal is to recruit all the strongest negators. Once they have enough members, they will start taking over nations. Izumo thinks they should blame God, who is the one toying with them, instead of innocent people. However, Unrepair explains that they are not obligated to risk themselves for that. Andy doesn't want to do any talking, so he just attacks, but he fails. He can't understand why his katana missed, but the blood somehow still hit the girl, and he wonders if she negated the attack. Being practically untouchable, Unrepaired decides that it's just time to end Chikara's life. He hopes that the person who gets his ability is worth it and launches a blade right at him. Andy quickly intercepts the blade, but realizes that he can't stop its momentum with his regeneration because of Unrepaired's ability. Just before the blade strikes Chikara, Izumo jumps in to take the hit. Unrepair thinks that was pretty dumb, pointing out that her wound won't heal, and he predicts that she only has an hour left to live. Unrepair calls her useless garbage now, but disenrages Andy. Andy prepares to remove the card from his head, but Izumo knows how dangerous that is and stops him. She explains that Andy's arm was able to slow the blade down so it didn't pierce her too deeply. Izumo tells him to stay by himself, so Andy listens to her. He holds on to her and vows to eliminate Unrepair. Just then, several guards arrive, so Unrepaired decides that it's time for them to leave. The guards see what's happening, but they assume that Andy is one of the hunters that have been messing with their operation. Andy realizes that he will be fine if they shoot at him while they get away, but Izumo will get hurt. However, if he doesn't move now, then Unrepair will get too far away. Just then, Chikara covers her up and is shocked when they tell him to be careful not to touch Izumo with his bare skin. He is surprised to hear about her negator abilities and promises to be careful. This coward of a kid then shockingly tells the guards that the girl needs medical attention right away, even though he is clearly terrified. He reminds the guards that they are after him and begs them to help the girl. They fire at Chikara as they refuse to listen, and Chikara once again thinks about his mom and dad while holding his bracelet. A look into his past shows that his mother was in really bad shape, at a hospital. She told them that he would meet a lot of people throughout his life. If any of them ever showed him kindness, then he should cherish those people. If they are in trouble, then he should take action and help them. She was certain that if he did that, then those people would become irreplaceable to him. The guards have run out of patience and decided to just shoot everyone. Chikara remembers his mother's words once more as the bullets approach, and he shockingly finds the power in himself to stop everything. And he can't believe what just happened. And we learned that this kid's ability is unmovable. Chikara has no idea what has gone on this entire time, but he is sure of one thing. That girl was hurt because of his being a coward. He promises not to freak out anymore and just knows that if he uses his ability to stop the guards, then Andy will be able to save Izumo. Andy gets hyped by this kid's determination and calls him and his ability really sick. I appreciate you viewing my anime recap, Unruly Family. Please let me know what you think about Undead Unluck by liking, sharing, subscribing, and leaving a comment.
Take it.